Many entrepreneurs really struggle to know exactly what to communicate with their audience so they can attract and serve the people that they feel called to serve. There are so many people who struggle with this that there are tons of resources available online, yet it's still a really hard thing to grasp, and sometimes it can make entrepreneurs completely give up on their business because they never figure it out. In today's video, I want to give you a little tip about how the brain works so that you can use that to your advantage to know exactly what to say to communicate with your audience. I'm Lori Reeves, founder and CEO of Brand Strength. I help entrepreneurs master the skills necessary to attract and convert more clients than ever. Okay, so today we're going to dive into how your brain works when you are on either the side of knowing something very well or not knowing something very well. It's very different, and once you understand that, it's clear to see why so many entrepreneurs really struggle with the communication that they put out to their audience and why that communication really does not attract people and falls flat. So here's what you need to know about your brain so that we can understand this concept. The informed mind values efficiency, okay? It wants to get things done quickly. It knows everything. It wants to communicate quickly so that it can use the resources, the energy that it takes to use your brain in other ways that are more important. But the mind that's learning craves detail. It doesn't know what to do with the information that it has until it has enough. And so when you look at how you're coming across as an entrepreneur, you are the informed mind. In fact, I would argue that you are the most informed person on exactly what you do. So you're coming from that angle, and every person you're trying to talk to is this completely uninformed person who craves detail. Now, it can be really hard to force yourself to go into detail on something that you already know intimately. But if you don't, you're not going to be pulling enough detail out that the uninformed mind craves and has to know in order to move forward. So if you understand that this is how your brain works, then you can realize, okay, if I can dig into more detail and share that detail, then that's going to help me communicate with my audience. But this is the very reason that it's really hard to market your own business, because you are coming at it from the standpoint of somebody who is very, very informed and completely knowledgeable about what you're doing. When you're at that point, it can be really difficult to try to revert back into being the person with the brain that's completely uninformed and remember what it felt like, what information you wanted to know, what information you felt like you needed to know in order to move forward. It can be really hard to do that for yourself, and that's why so many entrepreneurs end up hiring a consultant, hiring a copywriter, finding somebody who can help them with their messaging, because that person, whoever they hire or work with, becomes that individual that is unknowing and seeking detail. And that way, that person can go, okay, but what about this? Oh, but I don't know about this. And it's much easier for the service provider to answer those questions, those specific questions that are asked, instead of coming up with all the questions and coming up with all of the answers. So if you've found yourself struggling to know what you should be communicating, what is it that's going to grab the attention of your audience, because you're so far past being that beginner who's right at the beginning stages of wanting to know the detail of that information, then it would be really helpful for you to either just sit down and write out a list of, like, what would somebody who wants to know about this want to know? Like, what are all the questions that somebody might have? If you're not answering all those questions in your content, then you're not getting to enough detail for somebody to go, oh, this is for me. I understand where they're coming from. Now I'm ready for more. If you're trying to go from the solution or everything that you know about it, it's just not going to connect with them because they don't have a reference for it, or possibly they don't realize you're speaking to them, because we are all so very limited in our attention spans, and we only all have so much time, and we just don't have time to dedicate to something that's not actually going to benefit us. And so that's why, if you're not getting to that detail, the information that you're saying may benefit that person, but if they don't realize that it benefits them, then they're just not going to pay attention to it. So if you sit down and you try to write out, like, what would somebody who wants to work with me have, like, what questions would they have? If you're having trouble with that, you might need to work with somebody who can tell you, these are the questions I would have. Now, you might be able to reach out to a friend and say, hey, this is the basic gist of what I do. What questions do you have? And write down all their questions and attempt to answer those questions in the materials that you put out. So this could be an email, could be videos like this, it could be social media posts. However you're communicating with your audience, you want to address those questions, right? But if you don't have somebody like that that you can turn to, or you ask somebody and they're not as invested and they don't ask you a whole lot of questions, because honestly, they're not going to get a whole lot of benefit out of just helping you for free, you might need to reach out to somebody who can help you dig in to exactly what your client would want to know in order to continue learning from you and possibly move forward and hire you. So that is something that I help people with. So if you want to reach out, we can just have a conversation about what that could look like. But I just want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. The reason that you're having trouble doing this is because of the amount of knowledge that you have, because of the experience that you have serving your clients and developing the program that you have. So there's nothing has gone wrong here. There's nothing wrong with you, but you need to get yourself to a point where you know the inside workings of the mind of somebody who is interested in what you're doing, but has a lot of questions. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you liked it, give it a like. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I release a video every single week to help entrepreneurs understand what they need to know so that they can communicate effectively with their audience and attract more paying clients than ever. So I'll see you again next week.